Yeah, that headline is not a mistake or a typo. Yeah, I titled the show, LeBron may be the best option for the 76ers. He might be. We're going to talk about that. We got a special guest joining us today. We're going to talk a lot of Sixers, a lot of NBA today. Obviously, we'll address the fantastic reception for Rhys Hoskins last night, any Eagles comments, anything you want to talk about. But we are live, taking your thoughts and opinions here on Trending the AM in 60 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome all to Trending in the AM right here on Edge of Philly Sports. We are live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You know the drill. Hit those like, share, subscribe, retweet, follow buttons, whatever platform you're watching on. Let me remind you guys once again, it is free to do it. Help support the great work that so many great content creators are putting out there and so many great channels are putting out there. We spent a lot of time yesterday on my crazy rant, bitching and moaning about all the big name medias. Well, it's free to help us smaller name media channels get the recognition we deserve, not just me, everybody else. So hit those buttons, guys. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, every single morning here on Trending in the AM. You can find me everywhere that I'm at Beard and Knowledge. And joining me today, Mr. Crockpot himself, AKA Deibs. Good morning, my man. How are you today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. We kind of had this coordinated like months ago. I'm off work for a few weeks. I work in the school system, so it's nice to have a break. But
you're you're not lying. It was literally like 7 weeks ago. You sent me the dates that you were off from work, and I'm like, that is a guy that wants to come on Trending in the AM. If you are messaging me 7 weeks out,
I just gotta hang with the great one. It's what it is.
Oh yeah, right. I don't know about the great one, the great one that screws up left and right, but it is what it is. What's up, TMZ? We got lots to talk about today. Obviously, throughout the show, we will talk on the great reception that Phillies fans gave Rhys Hoskins last night, because the narrative always on this show is the negativity around Philadelphia, the negativity from the media. I guarantee you ain't going to see the Rhys Hoskins reception being publicized all over TV. They're going to ignore that great stuff, but that's on there. That's part of the conversation today. But we are here to talk basketball because, Deibs, you are fantastic with all the shows you do and all the content you do. You know the draft prospects. You know every single trade scenario out there. I got Spot Track up for free agents, but that's all I know about the free agents that are available is what Spot Track tells me. So we are going to break down a lot of the different scenarios and rumors that have been running rampant for weeks on end with our Philadelphia 76ers. And Deibs, I want to start this conversation very simply with you here, is that I've been preaching this for a week now, that Daryl Morey needs to be paying extra close attention to these NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics versus the Dallas Mavericks. Extra close. Because I think both of those teams have put out, not just this year, but over the last couple of years, what the real blueprint for winning or building an NBA championship contending team, which is the complete opposite of what Daryl Morey is usually doing, if that makes sense. So before I don't even want to ask you what your thoughts are on the finals in general. Do you think the Mavericks and the Celtics have the right formula on how to get to the championship round?
I think they have the right identity, and I think there's a huge way to attack that. First of all, let's start with Daryl Morey. I mean, he's going to have to get very creative this offseason. You look at the options and the likelihood that they actually can win a championship. I'm definitely more pessimistic than optimistic. You look at the front office; they have to find a lot of Kelly Oubres this offseason, man. Daryl Morey has to find the next Aaron Gordon. He has to find the next Bruce Brown. You most likely have Embiid and the free agency signing, which will likely be, the two old guys on this roster moving forward. Beyond that, the Sixers have to look at the NBA Finals and the top teams like the Nuggets that, have young legs, have length, have athleticism, have guys that, fit their roster. And moving forward, Daryl Morey has a lot of question marks. You have to maximize Maxey off ball. You have to find more shooters. You have to have Maxey be the smallest on the court and not have him be the weak link on offense. Daryl Morey defense. You have to create a team where everything will be fine if you don't have major physical weaknesses that are tough to overcome and tough to hide, as we saw not just the last Sixers team, but years prior when Embiid went to the bench. I think that Daryl Morey has to take a fresh approach, a different approach this offseason. And I love Joel Embiid more than anyone. He's a guy that can do everything on offense. He's a guy that probably does more on defense, and we don't talk about it enough. But that needs to stop in 2025. The Sixers need perimeter defense that can hang on defense, that Embiid doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the fireman all the freaking time. You need guys that can dribble. You need guys that can create. You need guys that can move the ball, so we're not always forcing the ball to Embiid with 5 seconds left on the clock. And I think this is the time when Joel Embiid has to be in his career where he needs to ask for help on defense, not just 3-and-D guys from guys that can almost entirely take the defensive load off of him. And also, it's kind of similar in a similar fashion where Tyrese Maxey, how he handles the offensive load. I think Morey's plan has to be as simple as this. Can the Sixers survive with Joel Embiid being out, being hurt, or being off? You look at the Celtics being A-okay when Tatum struggles, which happens a lot. He's been pretty mid this playoff. You look at Luka. The Mavs have been pretty okay when he's not dropping 50 points or triple doubles just to win a game. Morey needs to find the heart and soul and the identity of the Sixers team. And realistically, to pull that off in one off season is not realistic. And the reality of the situation is this: if the whole damn thing is about 2025 or bust, the odds are stacked way against the Philadelphia 76ers. I am not okay with finding more old guys like Paul or Jimmy or LeBron. I am very much into opening up the championship window, finding those young ascending players like those Aaron Gordons that need a change of scenery, that can fit into Philadelphia and maybe not be the number one guy on the former team, but come here and be a 2 or a 3, and the Sixers can hit the ground running. That's my take.
There's so much like that little opening, like general thought. Literally, I could do a 3-hour show just asking questions about little fine details that you asked there. Because I kind of phrased the question thinking about roster construction by watching the NBA. Fine. Yeah. But you kind of swung it into a way of philosophical, philosophies, and watching the NBA Finals. And I brought this up a few weeks ago on the show that maybe it's time to consider that Joel Embiid is not the focal point of the offense. Joel Embiid being the third option, and I know that sounds crazy, being the third option. And you can throw any name, LeBron and Maxey, George and Maxey, any of the names. And having LeBron be the third option, he's still going to average 22, 25 points a game. He's still going to play much, like you said, probably underrated defense. He's still going to affect the game at an MVP level. Do you think that has even been on the table before? And maybe Joel Embiid has said, no, I want to be the focal point. Maybe that, and that kind of goes to, you got the Olympics coming up, and I don't know whether he'll play or not with the knee. Probably will. Maybe he'll learn how to defer a little bit more. I brought it up a couple times. There's so much positives about playing on the Olympics team and negatives as well, obviously. But maybe he'll learn that he doesn't have to be the do-all person at all times.
Yeah, it's got to come from Embiid, and Nick Nurse, I thought he did a very good job last season, but the fact of the reality of this situation is the Sixers were way too Embiid centric, and the Sixers had no idea what to do with Embiid off the court. And, you had him playing the Batman role on defense where they just funneled everyone to Joel Embiid. Literally, like, probably 2% of the rest of the entire NBA can provide that role that Embiid provides. They need big guys, like big names defensively that can hang with Embiid. And they're hard to find. The Draymond Greens, the Rudy Goberts, like there's not many of them that can do the amount of workload that Embiid has on that side of the floor, and that's why we've seen such disparity. Where, like, I don't know what the plus minus is off the top of my head. It was like a plus 48 or something like that.
It was very, very big difference there. But so the thing is, and yes, and I love this comment from Mitchie Poo here. Super teams are dead, and the reason why I want to highlight that comment a couple times is because, we're all talking about the LeBron James of the world, the Paul Georges, the Jimmy Butlers, whatever it may be, and you talk about that window when it's open, whatever it's open. Would you rather, in theory, have this team go get LeBron James, and we're going to talk why I made the title what the title was in a second, a LeBron James type superstar. Now you've got 3 big stars. Or would you rather Daryl Morey go out there and find 5 high-quality bench and role players, kind of like look at the Dallas Mavericks roster and all the names they have around Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Like, to me, it's the same thing that the Denver Nuggets did. To me, that is I know that's not what Daryl Morey will do, but that is kind of the way they probably should be doing this, because when you go out and give Paul George a 4-year, $300 million contract, whatever it is, when that doesn't work out after year 1, we're back to pre-process days. I really feel like this offseason, if Daryl Morey fails, we're going to be back to the beginning of the process all over again.
I agree. And for the record, I am not open to star hunting. And that's what Morey is definitely doing right now. They definitely want Paul George, but it looks like he's going to stay in LA. Jimmy Butler, I am not on the Jimmy Butler train.
That breaks my heart, because I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan.
I like him,
at this point, it's kind of the ship has sailed on Jimmy Butler, right?
Like the circus that comes with a Jimmy Butler and the LeBron James is exhausting, man. It's a lot. And I am way more, finding the right pieces for this roster moving forward. I am way more about Tyrese Maxey reaching his ceiling for the team moving forward and finding pieces to build around Tyrese Maxey than Joel Embiid. I am way more go all in for the Mikal Bridges, the Lauri Markkanens, the other guys we can talk about. Donovan Mitchell. We'll see if they max him. And there's some other guys we can talk. I got a whole bunch of potential trades that you can give me a yes or no on that I think could be fun.
Absolutely. I just want to stay focused on that theory. And here's some interesting comments here on this. Like Judd here, if Embiid is going to be on the roster, they're definitely going to put that superstar next to him. And I agree with this comment so much. It's not necessarily the right decision, but this is it. And while we say you said you're building around Maxey and Embiid's just part of it, unfortunately, we kind of have to go down with the Joel Embiid ship at this point, don't we? Whether it disappoints us or not, you've gone all in on Joel for the last 5 years. You got to see it through to the end. I don't agree with it, but don't you have to see it through to the end?
If I was Nick Nurse, what I would do with the Sixers team moving forward is change up the offense so it doesn't completely flop on its face when Embiid goes to the bench. I would build it around Maxey. I would focus Embiid and decrease that workload to mainly defense, rebounding, not as many post-ups, and I would really throw it to Tyrese Maxey and see what he's got. I think Maxey is a budding superstar. I think the quickest way to the Sixers actually being contenders is Maxey going from all-star to superstar. And I think we all know what Joel Embiid is. And I think if we could get him to focus more just owning the paint, rebounding, and contesting shots at the rim and less usage rate on offense, that's going to do wonders for this team.
I want
And
to bring up Jim's comment here because I know a lot of people today during this show and big picture keep bringing these two names up, Bridges and Ben Simmons. And I don't know if you agree. You know more about prospects and trades and stuff like that than I do. But Ben Simmons being on that expiring contract is a lot more valuable than Sixers fans are realizing in that trade. Like, you don't just throw Simmons in on the Bridges trade to kind of sweeten the pot because the Nets are going to want to use that Simmons expiring contract in many different ways. So while I would love Mikal Bridges, and I'm sure you would too, the Ben Simmons throw-in part, if you really think about it deep down, does not make as much sense as people realize, right?
Yeah. I mean, if that's the deal, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. But I don't think it's saving you a first-round draft pick by taking Ben Simmons back.
Yeah, I think we underrate how good Ben was defensively for this team as well. I would definitely I would much rather have Ben Simmons than Tobias Harris on this team, giving you 10 to 15 minutes of defense. Maybe ultimately, we could kind of mold Ben into like a poor man's Draymond Green at the 4 that we always wanted him to be. And that would be awesome. But yeah, I would do that. I mean, Mikal Bridges is it's like him, Lauri Markkanen are like tier 1 guys. That's the dream. And I think the Nets are the more realistic situation right now. Look at the Nets and their potential rebuild starting this offseason. The Utah dream is probably a pipe dream. There's probably like 1% of happening.
It's the thing me and you agree on the most, the Utah thing. But I want to answer this question. Don't see Embiid taking a back seat. He wants all the individual. I don't know if he wants all the individual awards, but I do agree. I don't see him wanting to take a back seat. Who is that on? Is that on Joel to make that conscious decision? Or is that on Nick Nurse saying, you have to do this?
It's more on, I think it's Nick Nurse. I mean, his entire pick and pop and beat out the elbow offense was awesome last year. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
But after that, they didn't have any answers on offense. Like when Embiid hit that bench, it was dribble, 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 ISO, ISO, ISO. No one had any idea what to do. There was so much ball watching, and it was basically throw the ball to Tobias with 5 and chuck up a bad shot or pass the ball around the perimeter with 5 seconds remaining. And it was a bad situation. And that's my take is Nick Nurse needs to reshape this offense with Daryl Morey in mind and with Embiid in mind to lessen that workload and do what's best for the team. Because Embiid, I don't blame Embiid whatsoever. I want to make that clear. And Embiid was playing 40-plus minutes a game in the playoffs, and I thought he was sensational. Even when the shot was not falling, his defense was outstanding. It goes to all the other things, the bench or lack thereof, and that's why I'm way more pro find the role players and the right pieces and the athleticism and the shooting, and we can get more into that and who's available versus star hunt and live or die with a third star.
If Joel was healthy, he wouldn't have to take a backseat. And this is why, Tech, we talked early in the show about the fact that you don't make him the center point of the offense, which is what breaks his body down on a daily basis. You let your Maxey and whoever else you bring in here be the star, and then you've got a healthy Joel Embiid come playoff time. Let's start with the free agents. I know you want to talk Lauri Markkanen, and so do I. That's the trade avenue. But I think the free agent avenue actually links with the trades because you've got the trade assets and you got the cap space. Theoretically, you could go out there and sign a break-name free agent and still make a major trade for a player. So since the title was LeBron James may be the Sixers' best option, that's what we're going to start with right there. And I want to explain to you, Deibs, why LeBron James is the Sixers' best option. And I don't even know if I even fully believe myself when I say this. This is more looking at the three biggest ticket items. That's the three people that made the most money last year that are free agents. That's LeBron James, Paul George, and Tobias Harris. I had to throw Tobias Harris in there for the fun of it. LeBron James and Paul George. They're the two big name free agent guys. In theory, you could sign one of those two and then still go get Michkov Bridges or still go get Lauri Markkanen or whatever if you wanted to. LeBron James is greater than Paul George on many, many fronts. And I know Daryl Morey is zoned in on Paul George. LeBron James, you could sign for 2 years, probably, and get away with it, versus 4 years. So if it fails, you're out of that problem quicker. LeBron James might bring a circus. I think you used the word circus, but at least it would be great for us content creators. It would give us something to talk about on a daily basis. Josh Harris would love the money that LeBron James brings to town. And let's just be honest, even at whatever age he is now, 65 years old or whatever, LeBron James is still one of the best players in the NBA. And in my opinion, hands and shoulders, still a better player, even at this age, than Paul George is. So 2 years, more money, more content, all encompassing. To me, LeBron James, and it's mainly because it would be 2 years, would be the correct answer. And I don't know if you agree with this. You do not have to draft Bronny to get LeBron James. I think that is the most bogus narrative out there.
Yeah, I fully agree. And there's not going to get much argument for me on this one. I've weirdly soured on Paul George as time has kind of progressed here. You look at the Clippers, and even those fans, I think, are souring on him. They definitely have seen him look a step or two too slow this past season, and that has me worried. And you look at LeBron and what he could do with the Sixers, kind of be a four, keep the ball moving, create, rebound is big. There's no question that I'm not a LeBron guy, but I would quickly be a LeBron guy if he came to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, and it brings so much. Like, LeBron is still a great player. What do we need? We need a guy that's athletic, that runs, that doesn't mind taking shots.
Ball.
Yeah, somebody that in crunch time isn't going to be afraid to take the last shot. I mean, give me either. But the narrative that you have to draft Bronny, because everyone's like, oh, don't draft LeBron or Bronny and to get LeBron. That narrative, and hear me out. If Detroit drafted Bronny, LeBron ain't going to Detroit. If Houston drafted Bronny, he ain't going to Houston. If Sacramento drafted Bronny, he's not going to. There's realistically only 3 or 4 teams that LeBron James would even remotely consider going to. So I know Bronny is, only taking meetings with the Lakers and the Suns or whoever the two teams are, whatever. Ludicrous. This guy's got some bad advice in his ear right now. You don't have to worry about risking that 17th pick to lure LeBron here. You lure LeBron here by using that 16th pick and going and get Lauri Markkanen, or you go out and get Michkov Bridges. That's how you lure LeBron James here.
If you could get LeBron James and then use that pick, and I have a lot of scenarios we can talk about later on. But like, if you get LeBron and then use that first round pick to move for like an Alex Caruso, so you have Maxey, Caruso, LeBron, and Embiid, and maybe like on the wing, like have a rotation of Ricky Council and maybe some other like cheap wings like Taurean Prince or Kyle Anderson. We'll get into that in a little bit, but now we're talking.
Hey, Steve, this might be a shocking, bold statement, or it might be the most accurate thing I ever said. You saying LeBron couldn't do it with AD. I know this. I don't even know what Deibs' face is going to look like when I say this. Anthony Davis is one of the most overrated big men in the last 20 years in the NBA. And I stand by that. It might be the craziest thing I've ever said. It might be the most accurate. But I don't put AD anywhere on the level of Joel Embiid, in my humble opinion. That's just me.
But didn't they win a championship like 2 or 3 years ago?
And that's why he said besides the bubble year. The bubble year, you kind of gotta, you kind of gotta just wash the bubble year. Wasn't it Lakers versus? It was Heat in the bubble year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was Lakers versus Heat. That's way too long ago for me to remember. LeBron makes sense, and more importantly, dollars. I think if I had to put it, LeBron versus Paul George, it's LeBron. But there is good things like if Paul George is Daryl Morey's thing, Deibs, like it's not the end. Like it's not the worst thing in the world. Paul George still fits that defensive guy. A guy, what did he take? 8.5 threes a game this
Yeah,
year, and
the
he
fifth
shot
grade.
over 40%. He still brings plenty to the table. Problem is, he's just as injury prone as Joel Embiid, maybe even more. He is getting older, and it's a 4-year commitment versus a 2-year commitment. And that 4 versus 2 is why I lean more to LeBron. But if you want to lean towards Paul George, it's the who else on this team is taking 8 threes a game
Yeah,
and knocking them down at a 42% clip?
My gut tells me Paul George is using the Sixers as leverage. He's
Absolutely agree.
doing so to get a 4th year with LA.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I mean, we've been down this road before as Sixers fans being used in this way. That's my take. I don't know how realistic Paul George really is, and I am fully on board. I agree. LeBron would be that 4-3 kind of guy to fit with Embiid, and yeah,
I think Brett, and also what you're saying about. I don't think there's really a chance that LeBron or Paul George are realistically on the table. I think Paul George is, like you're saying, using leverage to get that extra year with the Clippers, and I think LeBron stays in LA. I just don't foresee a scenario where LeBron leaves LA. I don't see it. But
and
this is called trending in the AM. This is a trending topic, so we got to talk about it.
mhm. Yeah, it's a position that is so hard to find. Like look at OG Anunoby. He has his warts, and he's a guy that's going to get paid a ton of money. But my gosh, it's so hard to find those guys. And are they overpaid? Absolutely. But are they vital to team success? For sure. And it's just the market right now.
I love this comment. Go fire Morey and bring in Bob Myers from Josh Harris. Yeah, I mean, he's got that little bonus sitting there just in case. Look, Michael, you'll never hear me say a positive thing about Daryl Morey. I never have, never will, unless he makes this drastic turnaround this offseason. Embiid is begging for someone else to take the lead here. I actually agree with this. I think he wants somebody else to take the lead, but no one has stepped up to the plate. Well, he hasn't been given. He was given James Harden. James Harden didn't step up to the plate, and Tobias Harris couldn't step up to that plate. He had a guy in Jimmy Butler originally here, but he was only here for a cup of coffee.
And
don't want that. See, we got a lot of new. Make sure all these new people chiming in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and follow button, guys. Lots of people tuning in. We need a 4 that can grab rebounds. Absolutely, and this is where depth comes into play. And you brought up Caruso. You're bringing up all the different trade names. OG, obviously, OG most likely is not leaving New York, in my opinion. But you've got to find what's wrong. You want him to leave New York?
No, I love Quentin's comment. The Heroes reference. I'm a big Heroes fan, so
sorry, I'm not that far down the list yet. I keep my list to where I left off. I don't look at all the comments till I keep the next comment only on the screen.
My bad. But
Quentin
and I are always in cahoots when it comes to like movie and TV references, and I love to save the cheerleader, save the world.
Well, Heroes was a great show.
Oh, so good.
Who was were you a Peter Petrelli fan?
Oh yeah.
Or were you what was the teleporter?
Silo?
No,
he was the villain.
No. That was Skyler. Yeah, no.
Who was
the teleporter with the glasses?
He was so good.
Yeah, why can't I think of it? He was I try to teleport like him all the time. Hold on, I'm gonna teleport like him right now. Didn't work. Sorry.
He was a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah, I loved him. Peter Petrelli was probably the dumbest superhero in the history of superheroes, in my opinion. That boy got tricked so many damn times into so many stupid scenarios.
Man, shout out to Zachary Quinto, I think his name was.
Zachary Quinto. He went on to he had some roles in American Horror Story. I think he played Spock in the Star Trek revival. He's a fantastic actor.
So good.
Yeah, it's a great show. Bubblegum chip don't count. No, it does not.
But the comment about utilizing less Embiid and more Maxey goes to maybe things that we have learned from the NBA Finals with Kyrie and Luka. Maybe that's Donovan Mitchell. You look at the Cleveland Cavaliers and you look at how the money they're spending on Darius Garland, and you look at Evan Mobley's contract extension coming up this summer. Maybe that could be a ticket out for Donovan Mitchell, and he's a guy that could definitely play, secondary ball handler with Maxey And kind of that's what we saw in Game 6 against the Knicks. They let Joel Embiid get his. They focused the defense on Tyrese Maxey. The Sixers had no answer.
Yeah, I love this. And Mister, this is spot on. If we would have won the bubble championship, we wouldn't let there be an asterisk next to it. And when the media were saying there's an asterisk, we'd be calling out the media for putting it was a title's a title. So I love that comment right there.
Love it.
Yeah, third guy needs to defend. Yeah, I want to bring up. I'm going to keep firing through some of these comments, but your thoughts on Donovan Mitchell, because I've been pretty negative, opinionated on him throughout his career, from when he was in Utah to Cleveland. I just think he's a little overhyped, and I don't know if he could be the guy. Like, he could be the secondary or third piece, but in Cleveland, he's the guy. When he was in Utah still, he was the guy. And he can never elevate the team to that level. So I kind of feel like he would just be another Joel Embiid, not there in the clutch moments come playoff time.
Yeah, he's a scorer. He's not necessarily the best fit with Maxey defensively. Having two guys like 6'3", 6'2" is not ideal. There's definitely some bad for sure. And when it comes to the Sixers end, they don't really have a lot to offer Cleveland. That's like that's where it starts. They're a team that's going to want pieces. They're a team that's going to want to win now. And all the Sixers really have are draft picks and cap space. So not exactly the best trade partner for sure. But
what would it take to get someone like Donovan Mitchell? Because he's going into the last 1 or 2 years.
It would be probably a 3 or 4 team deal for sure.
Okay. Because I didn't think we would have enough to get him ourselves. Plus, it would wipe it out. I want to bring up Stevie's comment here. I agree with some of these names. I don't agree with some of these names. Gary Trent Jr., Klay Thompson. This would be more well-rounded depth on this team. And I wanted Klay Thompson at the NBA trade deadline last year. I did. But then he didn't get traded. And I watched like the first 2 games after the deadline, and I realized how washed Klay Thompson really was. But Trent, Monk, sure. Valanciunas, we need a center. And that was the biggest thing. I know everybody talks about Andre Drummond. It doesn't have to be Andre Drummond. If Daryl Morey would have gotten a center before the deadline that could start, we would have won 3 more games at least. And then maybe everything would have lined up differently in the playoffs. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten knocked out by the Knicks in the first round. Who knows how it would have played out? So whether it's Valanciunas, whether it's Drummond, whether it's whoever else is available as a center, it's got to be a center that can start. You need a backup to Embiid when Embiid's playing, and then you need a backup to Embiid when he's not playing, if that makes sense. And I don't know if Valanciunas has got enough left in the tank, but there's got to be an answer at the backup center that can start.
I fully agree. I have nothing really to add to that. Malik Monk is a nice player, but not a good fit. I think he wants starter money, and I don't know about that. He's definitely kind of trending up a little bit. The guy I liked in that comment was Gary Trent Jr.
Yes.
He's a guy that I've wanted in Philadelphia for quite a long time. He's only 25 years old. He's a guy that can really thrive off ball. He's a bucket getter. He had 12 times last year. He scored over 20 points, 4 games of 30 or more. Excellent at cutting to the basket, 96 percentile, 1.66 points per possession. And he's a guy that can kind of give you a little bit of everything. Spot up, cutting to the basket, off ball. He's 6'5". Not a great defender, but he's adequate. Gary Trent Jr. is like one of my top targets.
Yeah, I think Gary Trent Jr. There's a lot of former Raptors or Raptors players that have always been linked here. And the thing people keep telling me, and I can't really keep track because I wasn't a Raptors fan, realistically speaking. Some of the Raptors players like Nick Nurse. Some of the former Raptors players don't like Nick Nurse. But realistically, like, I don't think that really makes a difference. I think whatever happened in Toronto is in Toronto. Sixers are a different situation. Nick Nurse is the coach. Yes, I get it. But I don't think there's anybody really pushing their way out of Toronto because of Nick Nurse. And I love this comment. Please, we stop beating the Andre Drummond drum. I mean, like, he's not the only backup center there is out there. He's not.
Would you I don't know if you're a college basketball guy, but like, any thoughts on Zach Edey?
Which one is Zach Edey again?
Zach Edey is the 2-time player of the year for Purdue. He's 7'4".
Purdue. I was going to say Iowa, Purdue. One of those similar color schemes. I was picturing him in my head, and I've heard other people mention him.
He's one of the most polarizing guys in the draft. He's a guy that was dominant, played over 30 minutes a night the last 2 years for Purdue, but most likely will be a backup big in the NBA. He has slow feet, but he's dominant down low. I have thought about this over and over and over again, and as bad as those non-Embiid minutes have been the last several years, I have definitely leaned more towards yes than no when it comes to Zach Edey and just being a guy that can play 10 minutes and get buckets and give you 6 to 8 points in a very short stint, and the Sixers don't die. It's something to think about.
Yeah, guys, real quick, before we get back to the comments, we're brought to you here by SherryTickets.com. Great moments don't just happen, they happen with you in the crowd. SherryTickets.com is easy to use and has no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Pay less, play more. SherryTickets.com. Save even more by using their exclusive promo code EOP10. That is EOP and the numbers 10 at checkout. So not only are you not paying hidden fees, you're saving 10%. Why would you use any other reseller? If you need a more personal touch, give them a call, 610-494-5050, or go to SherryTickets.com. Just make sure you let them know EOP and Trending in the AM sent you. Again, that's SherryTickets.com and promo code EOP10. We are also brought to you here by PhillySportsTrips.com. If you want to travel with your favorite team, then check them out. Sign up at PhillySportsTrips.com. Let them know EOP, Trending in the AM, sent you. They have for premium travel and tailgating experience for the best fans, period. Philadelphia fans. You saw that last night and how we gave a reception to Rhys Hoskins. Philadelphia sports fans are the best. If you want a full travel package, self-travel package, they are your go-to. Check them out. If you want to go to Brazil, hold on, I messed that up. If you want to go to Brazil to see the Eagles play the Green Bay Packers week 1, check them out. They also have a trip up to Boston in about a week and a half to see the Phillies play the Red Sox. We got a day trip down to Baltimore to see the Orioles play the Phillies. And, of course, if I had any money, I'd be going on this one to Chicago to see the Phillies play the Cubbies at Wrigley Field over the 4th of July. Check them out, PhillySportsTrips.com, and make sure you let them know EOP sent you. Got through those two real quick there. I wanted to tie in, the ticket reseller with the Sixers, but I don't think anybody's lining up to pre-buy Sixers tickets for next season just yet. But I want to bring this up as well. Do we have to focus on the trades? Is Brett's concern valid that free agents don't want to play for the Sixers? And I don't know if it's accurate or not. I just don't think they've been in a position to bring the free agents in here, right, financially speaking. They have the money. We'll know this year whether free agents really want to play here or not, right?
I mean, this happened several years ago when LeBron used the Sixers as leverage and things like that. So we've been down this road before. I agree. Why would you want to leave LA and come to Philadelphia? It is kind of the reality check we had several years ago. So yeah, hopefully Nick Nurse can sell Tyrese Maxey, developing into a superstar, because I think that's a big piece of this. And I honestly don't see it. I think, as I started out the show, I think Morey needs to get creative. And there are several guys that maybe need a change of scenery, like a Cade Cunningham in Detroit, or different guys like that could come here and maybe not necessarily need the workload and be the number one guy, kind of like Andre Iguodala in years past, and kind of thrive in Philly as number 2 or number 3 or number 4. Okay.
Let's talk about some of these trade scenarios that you mentioned. And I know you're excited for this. I want to start with the one that me and you, I think I know I was talking about at the trade deadline. I don't remember if you were talking his name at the trade deadline as well. But Lauri Markkanen, Utah. Now, first and foremost, whether Lauri is the right fit or not is part 2 of the conversation. Part 1 is every single person in Sixers Nation, when I bring up his name, says Danny Ainge will refuse to do business with the Sixers. And I think that's bogus, because if the Sixers make the best offer, he is not going to take a lesser offer from another team.
Yeah. I mean, he's the dream fit with Embiid. He's a guy that's going to let it rip from the 4. He's young, he's ascending, he's an all-star, and there's not a lot of guys out there like him. The odds of the Sixers getting him are slim to none, but it would require a lot. It would require a lot, and he's.
Are you willing to invest? Because in my opinion,
no
it
doubt,
would take all the assets. Pretty much all the tradable assets are going to him, and then you're using the rest of your cap space to fill out the roster with whoever. You don't care. Like, if it's
you
4 draft picks, you're doing it.
I would do it, and you essentially develop into the Miami Heat and build around guys like Ricky Council and second-round picks and undrafted free agents, and hope to God you can rebuild and develop that way.
And Lauri's going into the last year of his deal, right? I believe it's like 6. Lauri Markkanen's going into the last year of his deal. So it's like 16 or 18 million. It won't count a lot this year, but you will have to extend him. So you're willing to go 4 years or 4 first-round picks, and then give him a 5-year max extension or whatever it would be. You'd be okay with all of that.
I would, and I think he's a great fit.
I agree with you. I'm not doubting you. I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, I would. He's really the only guy. I mean, obviously, like beyond the superstars, but like he's among the top of the list in terms of fit. He's like the anti-Tobias. He's gonna not pump fake or hesitate from the perimeter. He's exactly what the Sixers envisioned PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris to be. You know, let it rip from 3, provide that spacing for Joel. I would do it. At the end of the day, I would, and this is coming from a draft sicko. Like, I love the draft. And it's
5 picks for a player that's never played in the playoffs. I mean, I think it's a valid comment.
But this is also the hole the Sixers have dug themselves into. Like, they've punted all their draft picks and player development. Guys like Isaiah Joe, that was starting on a top team in the playoffs this year, and a guy that's not afraid to shoot from the perimeter. And it's really what it is. They've kind of dug themselves into the hole.
I mean, I know Marshawn's chiming in anti-Lauri Markkanen. You know, he you know, when he wasn't the future guy, all the things about him, he's played in Utah. There are no other stars around him. Like, he is literally the whole show. When he comes to Philly, if he came to Philly, he would literally be the 3rd guy. He'd be the perfect complement to the other 2 big guys we've got. Like, he wouldn't have to be the man.
He's a perfect balance between win now and, you know, extending that championship window per se.
Yeah, absolutely. Another trade name I want to bring up, because and I saw Marshawn ask about crossing the bridges with Miles. I love that. Little play on words there. I want to bring up the rumor this past weekend has been recirculating for the 15th year in a row about the Sixers looking at Zach LaVine as a fallback option. And of all the names we've talked about, Donovan Mitchell, you know, all the names we don't like, Zach LaVine is the name I like the least, and I've been saying it since day one, that Zach LaVine is not a winner. And some people are like, well, maybe you get Alex Caruso in that deal. Sure, I would love Alex Caruso on this team. But I do not want Zach LaVine anywhere next to Maxey in a backcourt. I think it would be awful. So can we please put the Zach LaVine rumors to bed that it's an awful idea?
I'm so glad you said that. I would have had a panic attack if you said otherwise. I talked about that on last night's show. I am like absolutely no way to Zach LaVine. The Sixers have had their fair share of losers here in Philadelphia. You know, there's some rumors that the Timberwolves could move on from Karl Anthony Towns. Absolutely not. I don't want Cat anywhere near the Wells Fargo Center. No more losers. No more soft losers for the Sixers, man. I can't deal with that.
I kind of would say that Donovan Mitchell might be in that same soft loser category, but that's another topic. You know, we already talked about him. I don't want, because there's another name that just was added to the thing, and I want to bring him up in a second too. Well, first off, Jordan Clarkson. I feel like I've been talking about Jordan Clarkson on the Sixers for like 12. Before the process started, we were talking about trading for Jordan Clarkson, in my opinion. Marshawn saying he's not anti-Lauri, it's the price. And I get that. But again, as Deib said, this is the boat you've backed yourself into. If you can get a player to pair with Embiid, and if it doesn't work out when Embiid moves on, you still have control of and is young enough, then you rebuild around Maxey and Lauri Markkanen versus going out and getting Paul George and being in a – like, I kind of feel like if you make the mistake on Lauri, that you can get out of that hole easier or quicker or pivot quicker with Lauri versus some of the other players.
And if you look at the NBA draft at pick number 16, like there are Some intriguing guys that you could put at the 4: Deron Holmes, Khalil Ware, different guys like that. Taijuan Salam would be awesome if he falls. I think he's more of a lottery pick. But those are guys that are major gambles. They're very, very much raw, and they're not, in that window of Joel Embiid. And as much as it pains me to say it, like, they probably will and should trade that pick. And if that means getting a better running mate with Tyrese Maxey, so be it. And that kills my soul. And I have really done a huge deep dive into this draft. There are some fun prospects, but man, none of these guys are perfect fits. And as we have talked about in the show, there's a lot of free agents that aren't perfect fits either. So it's going to be it's a tall order. It's a tall task for Daryl Morey to pull this thing off. The odds are not in his favor.
A lot of great comments coming in, guys. I'm going to get to them all here in a second, but make sure you guys are hitting that like, share, subscribe, follow button, depending whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Retweet it out if you're on Twitter. And I see we've got some anti-Joel Embiid comments coming in. We'll get to them in a second. But I don't want to fall behind on Steve's comment, because here's another name, a name that's been linked to Philly because of the draft situation as well. Brandon Ingram could be available. In theory, the type of player that Brandon Ingram is, a guy that could score, a high volume scorer. He's long, lanky. His defense isn't as good as it should be. But Tobias Harris became a better defender when put into the Sixers overall. Is Brandon Ingram on a cheaper trade deal? Like, you're not going to take 4 or 5 picks like Lauri Markkanen. You go trade 2 for Brandon Ingram. Then you have another pick to trade for Caruso. And then you've got the cap space to get. Maybe Brandon Ingram is a smart play because it gives you more leverage to bring in even more talent around them.
Yeah, I'm not a Brandon Ingram guy. If you look beyond the surface stats, look at his 3-point attempt rate. It has decreased steadily the last several years. And quite frankly, it's on that same level of Tobias. And we don't need another max contract guy here that's afraid to let it rip from the perimeter. In fact, I would go so far to say he's the wrong Pelicans player the Sixers should be looking at. And the guy that they should be looking at is Herb Jones. And he's a guy that
you're going to say that,
ascending, can play the 3, the 4, and can be a very good shooter from 3. And that's the guy I would look at over Brandon Ingram, who's more of a mid-range guy. We don't need any more mid-range guys. That's DeRozan is one of them as well. Not the perfect fit for the Sixers. And that's where Joel Embiid likes to operate from the elbow in that Nick Nurse system.
Kane bringing up, and Kyle Kuzma's name was in the rumors, but not with the Sixers, just in general in the last day or so. I want nothing with the Wizards want 3 or 4 first-round draft picks for Kyle Kuzma. No. There is no way, shape, or form I would trade more. Like, I think Kyle Kuzma is overrated, but if you wanted to bring him in as your 4th option and trade 1 pick, maybe I would consider it. But I want nothing to do with major trade assets for Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, the only trades I like with the Wizards are like acquiring more picks and more depth. You look at Washington, and they do have a lot of picks. Number 26, number 51. They do have Jordan Poole, who feels like a reclamation project for Daryl Morey. Probably the worst contract and player in the NBA. I hope he's not on that target list for sure. But yeah, Kuzma, I'm not out on Kuzma. I definitely think he would have value on this team, but not for what they're asking for.
I'm just firing through some of these comments. Some of these guys are on fire with their comments today, and I absolutely love it.
The guy I do like for the Washington Wizards, I think his name is Denny Avdia. Definitely an interesting wing that would fit really well here. You're looking at maybe finding that Michael Porter, finding that Aaron Gordon. He's definitely on a short list. I'm not comparing those guys, but a guy that can move the ball, shoot well. Definitely keep an eye out for Denny Avdia.
There were multiple comments about the Indiana Pacers. Everybody obviously loves TJ McConnell and stuff like that. Do you think the Indiana Pacers they're going to be looking to tweak. They took some big steps this year, but they are going to look to tweak their roster. Is there a viable trade partner with the Pacers where they have something we could use, and there's something that we could trade them outside of just the 16th pick that can help them in there? I don't know what they need technically, but you're going to hear a lot of their names. I keep looking at all the teams in the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 range in the standings as targets because they got to tweak. They either got to tweak to go up or tweak the rebuild. Are the Pacers a viable trade candidate for them?
Yeah, and the guy I'm looking at, and I believe he's a restricted free agent, is Obi Toppin. Obi
I've
Toppin
heard a few people mention his name.
My God, just literally one of the better fits this offseason. If you watch the playoffs, he was sensational in his role. He's a former number 8 pick. He just turned 26 years old. I have his numbers before the end of the playoffs, but he was averaging over 12 points in like less than 20 minutes in over 10 playoff games. But you look at what this guy can do. He can shoot 41.3% from 3 in the corners. He can dominate in the catch and shoot 40.9%. He's a guy that is not a great defender, but he can run the floor really well. He's very athletic, a ton of tools. He's primarily defended the 4 during his NBA career, got a lot of hops and an improving three-pointer. I think if there's a guy that would make the most sense to give up some mild assets for, Obi Toppin would be a great fit.
Obi Toppin's crazy because, and we'll get to some of these other comments in a second, because when he first came, he was terrible at first in the league. Like, he's really developed into a quality player. And that's what kind of the Sixers need. They need quality players, but they kind of also need to find that player cheaply before they turn into what Obi Toppin has turned into. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always looking for the next star or the next great role player before they are that.
I don't think Obi Toppin has he does. His athleticism and tools are so good, but his skill set doesn't match that. If that makes sense. Like I don't ever see Toppin being a superstar, but I do see him being a Michael Porter Jr. in the fact that he could be one of the premier role players in the league.
2-3 years ago, Obi Toppin was a DMP coach's decision 80% of the games. You know what I mean? So he's turned into a good role player. It's just, what can you get him for? And, can he accept that role here? Marshawn saying Corey Kispert.
I have no comments on him. I have not looked him up yet, so I'm not going to say anything I don't know.
Paul George and the 16th pick for Brogdon and Robert Williams. Brogdon's another name. I feel like we've been talking about Malcolm Brogdon since he won the Rookie of the Year. At some point you got to move on from these guys. But I would like, as a backup guard, Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know if I'm trading the 16th pick for him though.
He had a pretty good season, Malcolm Brogdon. I'm done with Paul Reed. So that means nothing to me. And is he even under contract? I don't.
His contract is voidable in a team option if they didn't make it to the second round. So they haven't officially, I don't even know if they're allowed to officially decline his option yet. I don't know if you have to wait till the NBA Finals are over, but his contract is voidable, which they will do because they're not going to keep him on that high-priced contract, after the way he played. But there is a scenario where you can use him in a side and trade deal. There's a scenario they could bring him back, at $5 million less than he was making. I'm over Paul. I'm all over Paul Reed.
Yeah, I like Malcolm Brogdon a lot. The fit with Maxey is evident. I think it's going to cost a pretty good penny to get him into Philadelphia. Thiago would go nuts. I remember covering the draft with Obi Toppin and Quentin Grimes with Thiago. He loved him some Quentin Grimes. That'd be a low key. That's exactly that creativity piece that I'm talking about from Daryl Morey I want to see. And I don't believe it's going to happen. I'm very much a pessimist with the Sixers team moving forward, but man, Quentin Grimes and Toppin would be awesome.
Yeah. Anthony Simons, is he still with Portland? I think he's still in Portland, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Portland, I don't know what Portland's doing. I brought up early in the offseason, as soon as the season ended for the Sixers, I brought up another guy as a fallback trade option cheaply so that Portland can get off of that contract, and that was former process Sixer Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 30. I think he's got 2 years left at $35 million. He's basically a younger version-ish of Robert Covington.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? A guy that could shoot the three, play defense. Yeah, he's paid a big price, but you're not going to have to trade 3 first-round picks for him. So I don't know if they would move on from Simons, but they might move on from Jeremy Grant for a first-round pick.
Those are some of my favorite scenarios. So like when you look at the Washington Wizards, like Denny Avdia, you look at the Blazers with Jeremy Grant. Like if you could get some sort of like 3-team deal where you're getting sending picks everywhere, you're absorbing cap. That's the ideal scenario for the Sixers, in my opinion. Like if you could get, you send cap relief and the Sixers first round pick to the Washington Wizards. You send cap relief, a 2026 Sixers first round pick, and the OKC 2026 first round pick to the Blazers. And then you've got Denny Avdia, you've got Jeremy Grant, Embiid, Maxey. Maybe you go out and get like Malik Monk, and that maybe that Avdia Grant duo can mirror the Michael Porter Juniors and the Aaron Gordon duo there in Denver. I like that. That's fun. That's the creativity.
Obviously, I love missed this comment because I'm not a Daryl Morey person.
Neither am I.
Is there like there's so much going on this offseason, so many rumors floating around, so many different thought processes going everywhere. But I have zero faith that he gets the job done. Do you have any faith in Daryl Morey at all right now?
No, and I like my favorite scenario for the Sixers. It doesn't necessarily maximize their window for 2025. Like I would respect the hell out of Daryl Morey to make a move for like a Cade Cunningham or a young ascending player like Herb Jones and use the assets for that and get good fits with Tyrese Maxey, not Joel Embiid. Again, I'm more of a defeated Sixers fan. I'm more on the lines of like they're closer to a rebuild than they are a championship. That's just my take.
If they're closer to that rebuild than a championship, then you should be thinking, just go for it. Swing for the fences. Do whatever you can. If it blows up, it's going to blow up anyway. Just go for it.
Maybe. I think Daryl Morey is not doing his job. It is malpractice if he is not having conversations with other executives around the league about Joel Embiid's trade value. It's just what it is, and it pains me to say it. I love Joel Embiid, but you have to look at the pattern, the history, and what we're looking at here. And I don't think his trade value is going to take a huge hit between now and like next summer or something like that, or a trade deadline. But that has to be a conversation, no question.
I mean, you kind of mentioned malpractice. I kind of think you queued me up there. You mentioned David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. If you get hurt at work in a motor vehicle accident, or if Daryl Morey creates malpractice this offseason, call David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. He is here to fight for you and get you what you deserve. He's a dedicated, well-established personal injury law firm built on the promise of aiding the seriously injured throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Give him a call, 610-565-0300. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Make sure you mention Trending in the AM and Edge of Philly Sports. Let David R. Cherry fight for your rights. Again, the number is 610-565-0300, or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. I love being queued up for David R. Cherry reads. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, as soon as I mention David R. Cherry's name, we get like 5,000 comments of cherries in the comments. So it's hilarious what goes on in the morning with these guys. They love the ad reads more than they love me. And I don't even understand that one at all.
So good. You ever do a show with Big Al? Like, he is so good at those transitions.
Yeah. I'm working on it. I never had to do those transitions before. I love it. I always try to find little things. You mentioned trading Joel Embiid and his value. What is his? This isn't even bigger. Would you support a rebuild now? I don't know about a process rebuild, but a rebuild around Maxey? Maybe. He's only 23. I don't know. Like, what could you get for Joel Embiid? And would you want Daryl Morey even negotiating that trade? Another Bob Myers is a free agent to be signed right now. Like, what do we do right now here?
Oh my gosh.
You're a fair weather fan, FYI.
Yeah. Man, obviously you look at the top teams like OKC and teams that are looking to kind of get over that hump and be a top team. Obviously, they have a ton of assets. And to be fair, if you look at the future Sixers picks, a lot of them are going to the OKC Thunder. Like they have so many picks.
Sorry, we got to stop. We got to stop for a second.
Oh my God!
Like this comment from Tech here, man. Like this is it right here. This is it. I don't talk politics on this show ever, but let me tell you something. This is the comment of the day right here. Like I'm just gonna end the show right there, and I'm gonna rewrite the ad read for tomorrow and make sure that this is part of the ad read for tomorrow. This might take it too far, but I am going to do it, and I love it. Love it. Sorry, continue on.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't even know what we're talking about. That comment was too good. About trading Embiid, I personally would give Morey his offseason. He's been planning for this offseason. Not necessarily that I think he can pull it off, but that's what he gets. He gets 1 year to figure it out, and if there's no progress or they're not any closer to winning a championship, that's probably this time next year is when we're having those conversations.
But here's the thing I'm going to throw in there with Joel Embiid and the trading or not trading him. You're giving Daryl Morey this 1 year, right?
Yep.
But Joel Embiid is also eligible for another major extension this offseason as well.
It's crazy.
So once you give him another, whatever, I forget what the extension is, 4 more years added on. He's got 2 left. I think you can add 4 on and $300 million. Once you tack 4 more years on to 30-year-old Joel Embiid with his injury history, that changes his trade value drastically.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if you can convince Joel Embiid to enter this season without another extension.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know about that, but I do agree in the sense with, Tyrese Maxey's contract coming up and then Joel Embiid getting more and more money as he progresses. There's definitely concern there. And I think that is a really interesting comment about maybe this is now the time to get out of that. And
I don't want to trade Joel Embiid. I want to make sure
I don't want to either, man. I
don't want to
yet mentally.
I just want to.
It's got to be talked about. It's got to be,
and someone said it up here. It's about due diligence, and I missed the comment. I can't find it now because there were too many cherry bombs in the comments to find important comments now. But it is due diligence, but it's no different than Daryl Morey called on LeBron James at the trade deadline. Daryl Morey, I think, what was it, Giannis? Or he called Daryl Morey at the trade deadline last year, called on every major superstar, whether it was the most ludicrous phone call or not. That's the job of a GM to do that. Problem is, again, and this goes to Michael's comment here, fire Daryl Morey now. I have zero faith. You're saying giving him 1 more year. You have to give him that 1 more year. The problem is, we as the fans are tired of waiting. And you've got to trust Morey, but Morey hasn't done anything to give trust in him.
Yeah, and it's the big picture stuff. That's what made Sam Hinkie so great. Is like, I would love to see a move for a young ascending player to fit with Maxey and not necessarily fit with Embiid. And that might piss a lot of fans off that it's not about 2025. But man, it's a tough pill to swallow for trading Embiid.
And he gets hurt again. Now you're stuck again, not being able to trade him. And again, I don't validate trading him. I'm going all in. But every year you wait to trade him, that value goes down.
But in a realistic scenario, and this is definitely on the table, they strike out again on all these top names. Mm-hmm. And, I don't even want to say it. I would prefer that scenario over bringing back Tobias on a $15 million contract or something along those lines.
I hate to break. I know we bust his stones. I think there's a legit shot at the end of free agency that Tobias Harris is back here on a cheap.
I'm cooked if that happens, Phil.
I'm telling you, it is a realistic possibility.
I would not be able to physically and mentally and psychologically.
When they strike out, the thing is, when you strike out, you go back to what you know. I'm just saying. Asking about Orlando as a trade partner.
That's the one-way ticket for Daryl Morey. That would be the end. No question.
Wagner, Carter Jr., Cole Anthony, Gary House, any of Orlando.
Oh.
I think Orlando's an interesting trade partner because they really kind of popped up much quicker than people realized this year. And they had a plethora of guards and wings down there. I think Markelle Fultz is a free agent now. I wanted him at the trade deadline last year. Thought he would be a good backup guard on our bench. Any interest in any of Orlando's guys?
Yeah, you're not getting Wagner. He's
No, you're not.
a young player that's ascending. That's a really good one. The guy I'm looking at for Orlando is Gary Harris.
That was just
I've always wanted him. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, there's another comment it was a follow-up comment. Yeah.
Gary Harris would be a terrific fit right there with that like Gary Trent Jr. tier. So that would be a no-brainer.
You can't fire more if the team falls down. It's Embiid's health. Yay, Deibs re-signing for 12. I love it. I love it. If they strike out, they have to at least explore. Yeah, if they strike out, do they strike out and then go for Tobias Harris to run it back? Or do they strike out and they're like, all right, well, we might as well trade Embiid?
If there's no viable solution to taking the Sixers into that second round NBA Finals area, like I would much rather prefer to just move on, rip the Band-Aid off, and we'll build around Maxey and the assets we get there. That cannot be on the table. What 1,000%. Like the Tobias and things like that.
So you put out a tweet this weekend. I think it was Friday. How far does this squad go next season? Maxey, backed up by Payne. KCP, who that's a new rumored name around right now, backed up by Buddy Hield. LeBron, backed up by Council. Patrick Williams, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond. You have bringing back Campaign and Buddy Hield, signing LeBron James to pair with them, and then bringing in Patrick Williams and Andre Drummond. And the reason why I bring this tweet up isn't necessarily to talk about LeBron James again, but the fact that you're bringing back Payne and Hield, and the name you do not have on there is Kelly Oubre. When I shared this out, the first thing that everybody responded to me with was, "Where's Kelly Oubre on this list?" Do you think Kelly Oubre is not? Let's transition for the final 20 in the guys we want to bring back. We don't want to bring Tobias back. We don't want to trade Joel. So which guys do we want to bring back, and why are you not bringing back Kelly Oubre?
My gut feeling is he's going to get more money than the Sixers are able to bring him back on. And I love Kelly Oubre. I love as someone who like lives and breathes this stuff, man, I can't even like fathom that concept. But I think we overvalue Kelly Oubre in some regards. I think you look at the Sixers and the lack of rebounding and when they got cooked on the glass by the Knicks, Kelly Oubre was out there. And listen, I love the guy too, and I think a lot of Sixers fans love him. Was on a vet minimum last year. He went through an extended stretch this year, scoring over 20 points a game. And he's a great athlete. The Sixers haven't had a great athlete like Kelly Oubre in quite some time. And I will miss him flexing when he dunks on people's heads. But I think
the problem with Kelly Oubre was that he was being overexposed in the playoffs because he's not a starter. He's not a 30-minute guy. He's a 20-minute. If you want Jordan Clarkson, just bring back Kelly Oubre. You know what I mean? Like, you just need scorers on the bench. That's what Kelly Oubre is. But when this team fell the way they did and he had to start starting regularly, that's why some fans, I'm not saying you have a negative opinion of them, just not highly positive about bringing him back. I'd rather bring back Kelly Oubre than Buddy Hield at this point. And I know Buddy Hield versus Embiid is supposed to be the perfect fit, but I don't know. You need that energy. You need an energy guy, and Kelly Oubre could be that energy guy off the bench.
Yeah, I just feel like he's not that difficult to replace. And
that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like we'll be able to find.
I don't think Campaign's difficult to replace.
Yeah, I can give you some names real quick if you want them.
Sure.
Some like underrated like wing targets. I think Taurean Prince would be a really good target for them. Derek Jones Jr., very solid target on the wing. Royce O'Neal, Kyle Anderson. We already talked about Gary Trent Jr. and Gary Harris. Buddy, I think, would be unlocked without Tobias Harris. So I definitely think he looks better without Tobias on this roster, and he would get more chances. But I'm with Quentin. I think I'm way more out than in on Buddy Hield. And for the record, I would bring back Kelly Oubre if the money is right. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I'd rather DJJ instead of Oubre. Agree with
He's
that.
good, man. Derek Jones Jr. is very solid.
The name Batum and Lowry
Caleb
keep getting
Martin.
brought up in
Caleb Martin is another name out there that would
I've
fit
heard that
really
name.
well.
I don't know why wasn't Nicholas Batum talking retirement at the end of this season? Now everybody's talking about bringing Batum back. Like I don't even know if he wants to play. Let me tell you something. Kyle Lowry better not be brought back. Kyle Lowry is washed, and I'll bring him back as a bench guy, a great player coach kind of thing. Let me tell you something. Kyle Lowry, if he's brought back, will get played 30 minutes a game because that's Nick Nurse's way of doing things. I want Kyle Lowry nowhere near this team, Kane. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm done with Lowry. And listen, his leadership was great. I think we learned that with Lowry and Maxey on the court, Maxey is just fine being more off ball, and he's definitely able to play with another ball handler. But definitely out on Lowry. I definitely think there are some better solutions moving forward. I would definitely bring back Campaign as like that regular season guy that can go on a heater and win you a couple games, not necessarily for the playoffs, but yeah, where are we going with that? I still think they need a ball handler.
Yeah.
In
Well, they
addition
do
to
need
that,
a ball handler. I just don't want Kyle Lowry to be that ball handler. That's all there is to it.
the big name is DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
That's
I forgot. I've gone over a lot of the names on my list. We haven't talked about Murray yet or Jimmy Butler yet. So let's talk. Actually, I think that's a great way because I keep saying I always look at the teams that are between 8 and 11, teams that either want to make a move to move up or a move to move down and start their rebuild. Atlanta, I don't know if they're going to trade Dejounte Murray. I don't know if they're going to trade Trae Young because I've even heard that rumor a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Murray's going to cost you some, but I've come around on Murray as being right after Lauri Markkanen, right after Mikal Bridges, being the guys that are the best fit for this team. Him in the backcourt with Maxey, I think it's kind of smart. If you're going to go all in on a trade and you can't get Lauri Markkanen, Dejounte Murray is kind of that guy, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely one of those guys that fits the bill as like he can't be a number one, but like realistically, I think the Atlanta Hawks are probably looking at moving Trae Young over DeJounte Murray. And I absolutely want 0 parts of Trae Young next to Tyrese Maxey. That would be a disaster. But I think when you look at Murray and his defense and ISO opportunities, he can definitely get buckets and defend. And he definitely fits the bill as a really good target. I mean, he would cost you your first round pick, probably the OKC pick. Again, a lot of these trade scenarios that I have are almost always involving a third team or fourth team because the Sixers don't have players to offer. They can take cap space, but they don't have anyone to trade. So DeJounte Murray is definitely like a B tier for this offseason, and I would love to make that move.
I want to put up 2 different comments talking about the same player in 2 totally different lights, and I know Big Sarge, you put this comment in last night in the comments of this show. I do not want LaFlop James anywhere near the city. You're bringing that back in. That's one comment, okay? And up here, you got Scotty saying if LeBron is on this team, we make the conference finals. There's 2 different theories there, and I think both of them are pretty accurate. But I just want you to know I saw that comment last night, too, come through. How do we feel about Tyrese Jones? Probably cost too much. Love it.
Yeah.
What's it going to cost, though? Because I agree with Scotty's second half of the comment. Is the cost to acquire him worth the player?
Yeah. I don't know what the cost would be, but that's probably like in that Alex Caruso area, I would imagine, a first-round pick. But that's another player, young ascending point guard. Definitely can get buckets, space the floor. We talk about needing ball handlers. Tyus Jones is so underrated, man. I would love Tyus Jones on the Sixers. Who's he play for? The Wizards?
I think he's on the Wizards, yeah.
Wizards? Yeah. So yeah, that would be a very underrated.
Get Tyus Jones and Kyle Kuzma, make a package deal with them.
Maybe Tyus Jones and Denny Avdia. Those are my 2 guys.
There you go. That's better than I don't want Kyle Kuzma. It's just everybody brings up his name all the time. Eric saying if we can land Murray and Bridges. I mean, I don't know if you can get both those guys in here. But that would be pretty massive right there. I don't like LaFlop, but he would make me watch a mediocre Sixers. He
Let-
would be
no,
entertaining as hell.
I am not a LeBron James guy. I want to be clear, but like, there's no question about the fit. I agree with Scotty in that he would give them the 4 they've needed for a while. He can get buckets. He can, rebound. He brings that kind of nastiness the Sixers have lacked on the court, and let Tyrese Maxey play more off ball to his strengths. LeBron is just the perfect fit. He's definitely the A tier.
All the names we've mentioned, who is the Josh Hart? Because watching that Knicks series, Josh Hart's a guy I've loved since college, and I hate Villanova now. They're dead to me with the way they handled that series, whatever. But the Josh Hart type of player, the jack of all trades. If you need him to go out and get 20 points, he's going to go out and put up his shots. You need him to grab 12 rebounds, he'll do that. You need him to play lockdown defense, he will do that. You need him to go hip check somebody to send a message, he'll do that. He literally does it all. He doesn't do anything fantastically, but that's the type of player you need on your team if you want to contend. The Josh Hart type. Out of all these names we've mentioned, who's the Josh Hart type that would be the best fit?
I would love Gary Trent Jr. He's been my favorite. If I had to throw a name out there in the NBA draft, if they keep the pick, for me it would be Devin Carter. Devin Carter is a guy. He's not the biggest guy. He's only 6'3", but he's got a huge wingspan. He's a great shooter, and he's a great on-ball defender. So Devin Carter, he's right now being talked about as a lottery pick. He went, unfortunately for Sixers fans, he started out as like a mid to late first rounder, and then he went to the combine and actually absolutely blew it up. He's like the trending guy right now, among the top guys for the NBA draft. But Devin Carter, if at any opportunity he slips to number 16 and he's sitting there and we trade that pick, I would kind of be pissed off.
Is there any scenario where the Sixers keep that 16th pick? Because I've brought it up that if you're going to build around Maxey and then keep Embiid as your, not the center point of the offense, maybe you want to keep and get younger. Is there a scenario?
Probably not.
Not what you would want at that pick, but is there a player that Sixers or Daryl Morey might be drooling over that fits this team?
You mean prospect-wise?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Devin Carter's number 1. Another guy to know is Dalton Connect out of Tennessee. He's kind of he's one of the best floor spacers in the draft. He's a bucket getter. Guy, Morris. This draft is littered with role players, and that's to the Sixers. That's what you're kind of looking for. Tristan Da Silva is another guy that's an older prospect, but great floor spacer, can be a 3 or 4. Yes, I did cover Devin Carter. It is definitely on the channel there. Jared McCain, great floor spacer, kind of like not the ball handler that Tyus Jones is, but a smallish guard, 5-star, high pedigree prospect out of Duke that played better as the season progressed. Jared McCain is a great one to know. There's some other guys. Taijuan Salon out of France. He's a stretch big. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Deron Holmes is a 4 out of Dayton. He's got a huge wingspan. He's like 6'9", but he's excellent at rolling to the basket. He can shoot threes. Excellent athlete. Deron Holmes is a guy that I would definitely be, kicking the tires on.
But do you think the Sixers are actually kicking the tires on any of these guys? Or do you think Daryl Morey is 100% already committed to trading that?
As someone who
I haven't heard any rumors about, I don't think they can even bring guys in for workouts yet. Like, are they even going to bring any of these guys in?
As someone who has spent hundreds of hours on these guys, no. Because you look at what their assets are to make a move, to make the roster better, it is those picks. So unfortunately, definitely way more it's going to be traded than they keep it. But that's also a reason why they're in the hole that they're in. They've punted all these picks for years, and now they don't have any young players to build around. And when they did have players like Isaiah Joe, they've let them go for old names and old guys. So for me, I would use the pick and continue to throw young legs on this roster. I am a big believer in Ricky Council. I think that was a home run addition. I think tomorrow, if you throw him in this starting lineup, he could probably give you 10 points a game.
Wow.
He's a downhill scorer. He can get to he's not afraid of contact. He can get to the line. He's a proven shooter. It's kind of the same situation as the Eagles. Like, I as much as I hate the Miami Heat, man, they do a really good job of understanding player development and getting those guys on the court. And they have made a business out of winning basketball games. They're not like world beaters, but they've been winning basketball games with undrafted players and guys they develop into clear roles. That's what we kind of like the Eagles. They need to get these guys on the floor and let them develop. And the Sixers have avoided that for way too long.
Well, now they've kind of avoided it. Now they have to avoid it because you've got this small window with Joel Embiid. So can you really go into next season hoping to develop players when you might be in the final year or two of the Joel Embiid? Like you kind of need to, because if Joel Embiid moves on, you're going to need players to step up. But you're trying to maximize that Joel Embiid championship window so you don't have that opportunity. It goes back to the developing of Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey and all these guys that everybody freaked out about losing.
Doc
You
Rivers
weren't in a position
never
to
playing
develop.
young guys.
Like you didn't have that. Like when you're trying to win a title, can you really try to develop people when you're winning a title or trying to win a title?
Well, I mean, it's all about also finding the right guys. Like look at the Denver Nuggets. Look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, yeah, they've found their identity and they build a team, a roster around that identity. The Sixers have not done that whatsoever, and that's what I want to see from this Sixers team, at least moving forward. And again, just not to beat the drum here, but I'm definitely more towards the Sixers not being able to retool. It would be like Daryl Morey would be executive of the year if he was able to turn this thing around and make them a legit championship contender. I would be stunned.
On a side note, did you see? We're talking about the NBA draft. They're going to make the NBA draft 2 nights. Like, is that not like? Tell me you don't know how little people care about you the second round of the NBA draft by saying you're going to give it its whole day. One of the dumbest, oddest.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Like nobody really cares about the second round anyway. I don't truly understand it. Like sickos like me, I love it, but like it's like the day 3 of the NFL draft. Like I'm sitting there watching it on TV. I love day 3.
Right.
But nobody really cares. Let's be real.
There's literally nobody other than you and maybe Shane Haft that puts that much research into college prospects for football and basketball. Like you legit have more knowledge on these guys than I don't know. I don't know where you find the time to put all these little short videos together. And I mean, all the research you put on these guys, I have no idea. It drives. All I do is just set up and do this. I don't do any research.
But it's also what I do. Like you're covering way more sports than I do. Like I have my niche. Like you're watching the Phillies. You're watching the NBA Finals. I'm more so like watching college basketball stuff and NFL draft stuff. Like we all kind of have our things.
I don't even think people care about pick 25, Big Al. I think after like the first 10 or 12 picks, people pretty much tune of the NBA draft. Real quick, we've only got 5 minutes left, and I'm on a hard time. I got to get out for the pizza shop today. I want to ask you got to give me a 2-minute answer on this, okay?
Okay.
Thoughts on everything. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. As a basketball fan, do you have a 1 or 2 minute answer on everything going on around the hard fouls, on the hate, the jealousy, whatever you think it is on Caitlin Clark?
I know nothing about that topic. Absolutely nothing. I don't watch it. I know there's been a lot of drama surrounding this. I don't really have any comment on that.
Okay, that's fine. You're allowed to have no comment. That's like the plead in the fifth there. I don't know if that's a good comment. Guys, you're watching Trending the AM right here on the Philly. We're going to wrap it up here in the final 5 minutes. We got to talk for a second. We got to preview. There's lots of great content on Edge Affiliate. I forgot to download the new calendar for this week, but we've got lots of shows lined up on this channel today. There's like 6 more shows. Obviously, My Fairway to Heaven, talking this week's Memorial Tournament with Jason tonight at 6. But at 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to be live. I'm going to be back with Deibs and a few other characters and we are going to be drafting the greatest football team built around fictional football players or real, whatever, movie and TV football players. And I'm kind of pumped for this, Steve. Like,
I'm really
you don't
excited.
understand some of the names I've written down for tonight. I'm either going to get laughed at as the dumbest person ever or laughed at because I'm the funniest person ever. I guarantee it.
Yeah, so we're creating a roster of the best football, movie, and TV characters. It'll one quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, a flex wide receiver, tight end, a defensive lineman. An offensive lineman, a defensive back, and a head coach. And it's going to be a draft, and we're going to have people vote on who has the best roster. So I'm not sure. We're going to have a wheel spinner to determine who gets.
Can we do 2 different voting policies though on this? One who has the best roster, one who has the coolest roster. Because I guarantee my roster will be the coolest. I guarantee it won't be the best. Because I got some names that people don't even realize played football characters in shows or TVs or movies.
I'm right there with you, man. I go for the win. I'm going to try and build the team that people will vote for the most. Not necessarily the best, but I think the character. There's a lot of football movie characters out there that people love. That might not necessarily be the best at their position, but they're going to see that and be like, yes.
I mean, everybody's going to want. I've already dusted off my Sugar Shane Falco jersey. I will be wearing it tonight. There's going to be a lot of Sugar Shane Falco and replacement jokes, but everybody's going to be on their replacements. Let me tell you something. If I don't get Falco with the number 1 overall pick, I've got some names, some quarterback names lined up.
I don't want that number 1 pick at all. I don't want the number 1 pick.
You don't want Sugar Shane Falco?
I'm not revealing who I would go number 1 just yet. I think positional need is going to heavily factor in different parts of this draft as well. I'm not necessarily. I want Keanu number 1.
Well, Keanu could be named multiple times because he's played football players multiple times throughout his career in Hollywood. Just so you know, so there's multiple levels of Keanu Reeves that are out there. Guys, we got to start this wrap-up process. You're watching, and make sure you hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. Make sure you're following Deibs at Mr. Crockpot on social media. Make sure you check out all his videos. If you want to learn about all these basketball prospects or come football draft time next year, all the football prospects, you got to be locked in. He puts out so many videos. What's that?
Hide
the
the
guy from draft. Oh. I wasn't even reading the comments. I was just putting them up there.
Low key, one of my favorite sports movies.
I honestly have there are some names on my list for this week that I have not even seen the movies because there's certain positions like cornerback or linebacker or D line. There's not a lot of D linemen that you could pick.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was referring to. But I will say my team tonight will not be the most talented, but I will like to say by the end of the draft, I will have the team with the most heart and the most soul and the most character. That's where I'll end.
You just mentioned the word heart. So obviously I know you're focusing on the Washington Sentinels. Because that's what Coach McGinty said. We need heart. We need heart. And then Sugar Shane Falco made it from the ocean all the way to the stadium, got dressed, stretched, had time to fight with the quarterback, and got out in the field all in a 20-minute halftime. It's the longest halftime in the history of TV and movie is in that last football game.
And I will say I have spent so many hours on my rankings, an absurd amount of hours on my rank. I'm so excited. And we'll be voting. So it'll be team versus team. And then whoever wins the first round will go against each other for the best football movie roster.
There you go. Got it. So, guys, make sure you're locked in. There's lots of content right here on Edge of Philly Sports today, every day, 7-day-a-week program, guys. Today starts OTAs, mandatory. Will James Bradberry show up? We'll be back tomorrow to talk first day. The media, it's open to the media all week long, all 3 days. So we're going to get lots of information about our Eagles. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We did not get to talk much about Rhys Hoskins today and the fantastic standing ovation. So we will dive into that as well tomorrow, guys. But thank you very much, Deibs, for coming on today. I don't know. We're going to do it again, whether it's later this week or next week. We're going to have another episode. Since you're off for 3 weeks, I'm going to take advantage of 2 or 3 visits from you on the morning show. Maybe I won't schedule you. Maybe I'll just let you pick a random day and just surprise me by showing up in the comments. Really pushed my limits by not being prepared for you. But, yeah, Guys, make sure you're following everybody. It's always we end this show with Go Birds, ring the bell, guys. And it's now the new ending to this show. Simply Deebs, it's bubbles up, guys.